Salute, mi familia.
As huge cinematic franchises go, none are more surprising than the Fast and Furious films. Starting as a bit of a Point Break rip-off with cars, the films have evolved into one of the more dependable action film franchises of recent memory. With the 8th film around the corner and 2 more sequels at least planned over the next few years, the series isn't going anywhere. The growing pains of this series are really quite interesting, and where other franchises have fallen aside, been given up on or rebooted, Universal have really grown these films into something quite respectable both critically and commercially. They've experimented, spun off and galvanized, not afraid to evolve whilst really taking notice of what works and what doesn't. It's really quite rare these days to see a series like this get so many chances, especially when similar ones like The Expendables sadly look to have given up long before Fast and Furious even found its footing, and from an original film that was pretty much released as counter-programming to a slew of blockbusters, really quite charming. Okay, maybe charming isn't the right word, but it's not quite that far off when looking at why these films have become so successful. The first film was a street racing action heist pick that depended on 2 arguably pretty bad actors, though like the series they evolved well into their roles and really became the anchor for one of the biggest franchises in the world. With the second film that apart from Paul Walker pretty much got rid of everyone and moved to Miami, the series quickly began to waver. The first was a bit of a surprise success, and clearly Universal took the standard route of making a bigger and badder sequel. There were glints of what made it work, but where they doubled down on the vehicle-based carnage, they began to lose something that really made things tick, though that ingredient was still there at this point.
You got my back, bro?
By the third film, that secret ingredient was gone entirely, leaving a serviceable but entirely forgettable entry that though some quite enjoy, I pretty much consider the weakest of the Fast and Furious films, and it ain't just because they somehow found an even more wooden lead than had been seen previously. It's not really a secret, as you hear it all the bloody time, but here's what makes Fast and Furious work. It's about something.
Family.
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 I don't have friends. I got family.
It's about family. Now obviously that pops up all the time in the story, but when a writer sits down to create that story, they often start those pages with something very particular in their head. It can be one word, it can be an idea, it can be a relationship. It doesn't have to be mentioned, but that's what that whole story is going to come back to. What is it about? With Die Hard, Steven E. D'Souza wrote an action film that always comes back to that relationship between a husband and wife, and finding again what had once made them happy. You feel that in every choice the film makes. McClane is not only proving himself as a husband, but in a way realizing more and more just what he has lost. In a you only know what you have when you lose it kind of way. For me, once Bonnie Bedelia became less and less a part of the Die Hard series, the films increasingly lost their way. I like the third film, but I do miss her physical presence, and by the 4th and 5th films when she was gone entirely, they didn't feel at all like Die Hard anymore. With the Fast and Furious franchise, Universal seemed to realise what was missing after the relative failure of Tokyo Drift, that apart from a brief Dominic Toretto cameo featured none of the original players. It is the film that features the most street racing of a franchise built around street racing, and yet is also the one that feels the least like the other films. With the 4th film, they had some work to do retconning what had become before, and director Justin Lin was still finding his way with huge set pieces, but in bringing back together much of that original crew, they paved the way for what would become a box office juggernaut that nobody really expected. I'm not going to pretend that the Fast and Furious films are masterworks of cinema or anything, but the 5th, 6th and 7th films really work for me in a way that the others don't, save for perhaps that first film. It's because through it all, they realise that more than just cars and explosions, what we care about are characters. And when your characters care about something, that their wants and needs are reflected in the choices the filmmakers make, the audience has something relatably human to latch onto. Obviously the spectacle of seeing insane stunt work and expertly polished CG-infused set pieces gives that wow factor we've come to expect. But for me, it's that team becoming a family that sets the Fast and Furious films apart. Hell, by the 6th and 7th films, even the villains' motivations were either because of or the direct antithesis of that family theme. Owen Shaw, doesn't believe in the family unit. He'll swap out a team member at any point if it makes the job easier. He'll happily leave a crew member to their death.
You make a mistake, you pay the price.
It's a great eulogy, Shaw. You gonna give the same speech to the rest of us when we go out?
He doesn't believe in loyalty. He's someone Dom can never understand.
You again?
Deckard Shaw, he's a reflection of Dom, physically and thematically. Like the Punisher and Daredevil, they share a certain idea.
You never should have messed with a man's family.
Albeit with different ways of showing it. Fighting for family, of loyalty above all else. You get the sense Statham's character doesn't even like his brother, and yet these are the lengths he will go to avenge him. It was interesting too to see of all directors F. Gary Gray take on the next film. Obviously he has done action and car pictures, but for me, what really made me happy to see him chosen? His previous film was about three men coming together as a family unit, as brothers. Ones who realise just how important they are to one another. In a world where action scenes are pre-visualised long before the shoot, and rarely even filmed by that first unit director, choosing someone to lead your movie who really gets the thematic elements is what is really most important. So yeah, the Fast and Furious films may lack technically at times, especially outside of the admittedly pretty damn fine car chase sequences, and their stories veer between ridiculous and almost laughably nonsensical. I still find it funny that in Furious 7, they are looking for a MacGuffin that will reveal the very hard to find location of a bad guy that literally pops up every single time our heroes show their faces. But I accept it because I want to see this brilliantly diverse group of people realise and revel in the importance of family, blood or not. It creates humour, it creates drama, and it creates a relationship not only from character to character, but character to audience.
It's never goodbye.
The Fast and the Furious franchise is a cinematic soap opera, but the best series sort of are. Family dynamics, love for one another, for fellow human beings. At times, whatever they look like or wherever they are from is what drives great blockbuster cinema. And to be honest, that's simply a really nice thing to know.
Wanna go for a drive?
Explosions, bullets, good looks. We pay to see some obvious things, but what keeps us coming back? Family. Characters you care about that care for each other. And no series really seems to understand and capitalise on that more than the Fast and Furious films.
Who we are.
Who am I kidding? We all know what the Fast and Furious films are really about.